Good evening, folks. Welcome back to the weekend. Here it is Calling All Heroes Rising back with all the action on a lovely Saturday night. It is Rags and Rain bringing you tonight's match between Dreamlight Academy and Fruit Salad here. And I think the sixth round of the Swiss stage so far. So we are pretty deep in it here. These teams have had quite a chance to show each other what they're capable of. And we're really starting to separate the strong from the weak here. And we'll see exactly on which side of those coin these two teams end up on.
Yeah, exactly, Greg. So this is actually the last week here in the Swiss stage for Calling All Heroes Rising. So starting next week, we are going to have the playoffs ready to go, and it is going to be the top 8 teams that advance from the Swiss stage into those playoffs. So we're at the end here, so you really want to try and secure this last match as a win.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to go into the playoff stage with as much win in your sails as possible. And of course, to make them in the first place, very important. You really don't want to miss the chance there to get more experience under your belt going forward. And of course, there has been a bunch of delicious updates to Overwatch in the past week. We've got Season 18 dropping, so there is so much deliciousness to deal with here. Of course, we have the new support hero. Of course, there's so many adjustments to pretty much every hero in the game between perks and everything else. And we got to see a little bit of that on Thursday, but even more of it for your viewing pleasure here tonight. And I'm always curious to see how these teams are adapting to an implicit shakeup of the meta.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a big change. Like you said, pretty much every single hero in the roster has had some kind of a tweak, whether that is kind of a balance change or an adjustment to those perks. We do have Wu Yang playable in for Calling All Heroes as well, so a potential to see that hero making a here on our screens tonight. I think we should introduce you to who else is going to be on our screens tonight. Fruit Salad is going to be the first team up, as we'll take a look over at their roster.
Yeah, so having a look at Fruit Salad's roster here, we've got Lyran Hostile, your DPS line for the evening. Fuzzy Dough will be the tank, and of course Mothfia and Banana Milk rounding out your support line here for Fruit Salad. So a strong roster here so far. Really solid chance to get to see both of them, all of them in action rather. So yeah, very much looking forward to see them take on Dreamlight Academy here, who we've got to see quite a bit of recently.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've gotten a chance to see, at least Fruit Salad for sure. I've had the opportunity to kind of cast them on this series or on this broadcast at least before. Dreamlight Academy, again, some pretty well-known names, some players that have been in this scene, in the Rising scene for quite a few seasons here. It is going to be Bandit, the DPS. We also have Bloom, Super Bloom on the DPS, who has been a menace on that flex support. Also flexing a little bit over onto the hit scan as well. And then on the tank, we do have Lucky, who we've gotten to see play quite a few different tanks as well. The support line, they have a couple of players lined up. We have Lake, we have Dusk, and we have Starry Night. So, like I said, if you've been around Calling All Heroes, you are definitely familiar with some.
Absolutely are familiar and expecting pretty solid things from them. Of course, we got to see just a couple weeks ago Dreamlight Academy on stream here, putting an excellent performance in. And so I'm very delighted to see these two teams go head to head here and see who is going to head into the playoff stage looking strong and who is going to find some things to work on for themselves. Of course, so many changes have happened with this most recent patch and all the hot fixes coming through. Don't worry, folks. Blizzard has been very active, which honestly is very encouraging to see how quickly they've gotten a lot of these things fixed here. No more Cassidy immediately one-shotting folks. That is not going within reason, of course. So yeah, plenty of changes to happen. Of course, Hog got his D-Vamp coming through. Plenty of changes on all heroes. You know, plenty of perk choices, plenty of adjustments there. In theory, all these armor bugs have been fixed that were orbiting for the past couple of seasons here. So we've getting to see these finally shake out. The dominoes finally starting to fall, and hopefully the game will be just pure skill all the time. But we're looking at our map pool for tonight, and we are starting things off with a bang on Oasis.
Yeah, control map, of course, going to be this first one here, and I do believe that was the Fruit Salad map pick, as they are coming into this as kind of the higher seed, so they have the opportunity to hit the first map pick, which it did have to be a control map, as a classic. And they also had the opportunity to go in with the first ban here. Actually, sorry, it's actually Dreamlight Academy that had the first map pick and the first ban, and Dreamlight is banning out the Lucio to get things started. Fruit Salad answered with a Diva pick.
All right, so on Oasis in particular, very rare to see a Lucio ban. Of course, getting that
Mm.
speed option off the table. That does mean you're going to have to rely on Juno for those purposes. Or Wuyong if you're being very selfish with your speed, because of course can't really share that with everybody too much.
Mm.
But Fruit Salad, of course, banning out the Diva does really put, any sort of these particular comps that rely on this very, dive but poke also style coming to it ahead there. If they want to run that, you're going to have to run with something like a Winston, like a Hazard. Diva, of course, does very well into both of those heroes, certainly into Winston here. So without that, you're really going to have to rely on tanks and DPS picks. You're really able to free fire there. No D matrix to worry about.
Yeah, it's also going to take away kind of a lot of peel potential. The Diva, if you're going to play a dive tank, you're going to have a lot more peel potential with that Diva. Like you mentioned, the defense matrix is going to be able to eat up a whole lot of that damage. So Fruit Salad banning out the Diva here makes me wonder what you're opting to play. Dreamlight Academy do have kind of the Fuzzy Dough on the tank. Potentially a pretty good Diva, but I believe these names are actually backwards. Okay, this is what's throwing me for a loop. Yeah, so Fruit Salad is going to be the team in purple here. So Fuzzy Dough the tank for Fruit Salad. Lucky, our tank here for Dreamlight. Looking like they want to go out on this Zarya here. Fuzzy Dough, though, hovering over this Reinhardt. This is something that we have seen her play, absolutely. And on Oasis, this first map that we're starting out on, University, is a fantastic place to play this Reinhardt. It is going to be the Sim TPs coming out. Hostile swapping over on to this Tracer. Looking like Dreamlight Academy going to be showing us a little bit of this new hero. Starry Night does have the Wu Yang locked in. We have been seeing him play mostly with this Kiriko, so Dusk over on that, no surprise to me either.
Yeah, solid combination between these two heroes. Plenty of mobility, plenty of reasons to get out of dodge here, and certainly Lyran's going to be the one trying to keep both of them in check as much as possible here. Hostile running rampant in the backline so far, as Fuzzy Dough is just contesting here on the objective. The point has been unlocked, but with that first kill going the way of Dreamlight Academy, answered back immediately though as Lucky goes down. Without their tank, you'll take that trade any day of the week for Fruit Salad. Unfortunately, Hostile's play a bit more carefully here, almost goes down, but is able to just get back as they rejoin their team. Mothvia gets taken down though as Bandit has just been unleashed here, taking out one after another here on the side of Fruit Salad. Dreamlight Academy look as though, even though they lost Lucky early on in this fight, who is now finally back in the thick of things as Hazard. So very happy to bully that Reinhardt pick of Fuzzy Dough. Yeah, finally they will get first cap.
Yeah, scrappy first fight there, but the DPS for Dreamlight Academy really coming alive. Bandit finding two there has nearly already built up to this Deadeye. The Cassidy in a really good place right now, and Dreamlight Academy in a really good place too, because it's going to be hard for Fuzzy Dough to kind of push in. We see already this healing coming through, keeping Fuzzy Dough alive, but the shield resource is just not.
Yeah, Bandit just has a quick hike backwards, not able to get a ton with that ultimate, but still earning plenty of ult charge off the back end of it. Does get the kill on the Hostile, so yeah, without that, and a massive shadow coming through, Fuzzy Dough is trying to even out the score. Does get 2 kills on the back of that shatter, and Lyran just teaming up for the Deadeye kill on the Starry Night. Perfect, just like you drew it up, and it looks like Fruit Salad have got themselves on the board.
Ooh, yeah, beautiful sleep there from Banana Milk, shutting down Lucky, who had that Wu Yang ult ready to go, was going to be able to slam down, but Fruit Salad flipping this over. You have this Nano ready to go. Hostile has the Pulse Bomb as well. Now, we mentioned kind of how much mobility this support line from Dreamlight has. Not only do they have the mobility, you're going to have that Suzu from Dusk as well. So Hostile going to have to try and find an opening, potentially try and find an opening in the cooldowns here and get this Pulse Bomb the value it needs.
Banana Milk ready to go with this Nano, could really launch onto a couple members, but unfortunately that Pulse Bomb gets nothing. Starry Night does get the finishing blow onto Hostile there. Not a ton of benefit to be had whatsoever. As the Nerf Sword gets drawn, Super Bloom is ready and willing to take Lyran and Mafia both down in quick fashion. Taking out Banana Milk as well, with Fuzzy Dough soon to fall afterwards. Fruit Salad, they spent heavy in that fight and unfortunately did not see any returns.
Yeah, that's so true. And all right, we are gonna have some swaps happening for Fruit Salad. So Fuzzy Dough's gonna move over onto the Orisa. Hostile coming out on the Genji. Gonna have this rally from Mafia online very shortly, but the Deadeye from Bandit gonna be able to zone out Fruit Salad, and Lucky has this downpour coming online as well. Now Fruit Salad are gonna be playing fairly stacked here, although you have this kind of on a brig backline. You're not playing a dive here, so you know that they're gonna be kind of orbiting around Fuzzy Dough on this Orisa.
Ooh, I like this Orisa from Fuzzy Dough, but unfortunately just eating so much damage coming in, and she's not able to keep herself very safe here, but does manage to just ward off the attack of Lucky there, despite being locked in place by that downpour. But unfortunately, the rest of the team also get themselves caught out, and it's just Fuzzy Dough. See if she's able to get a retreat. Yeah, just able to get back to the rest of the team there, but we are ticking into final fight territory here for Dreamlight Academy.
Yeah, now Fruit Salad have still this rally ready to go. You're building up to that Terra Surge and the Nano as well. Lyran has the Deadeye to try and match Bandit, but Bandit's gonna be the first one to drop.
Yeah, that Deadeye trying to zone everyone off, keep them from touching here on the side of Fruit Salad, and you do get Fuzzy Dough here on the objective. As Lyran on the high ground, Bandit was not paying close enough attention, takes them out of the fight, and just like that, Fruit Salad, on the back of excellent placement and pick choices, they are going to take the point once again, and we are not done with this round just yet.
Ooh, 99% here for Dreamlight Academy. So you just have to win kind of the one more fight here. You're gonna have the Kitsune Rush very soon to work with. Gonna have this ultimate from Wu Yang ready to go as well. Really great for kind of engaging here because you get that first healing, you have the shield, and you're gonna be able to kind of create a whole bunch of space. But the Nano and the Terra Surge still ready to go here from Fruit Salad. That Terra Surge from Fuzzy Dough could essentially shut down this push entirely from Dreamlight.
Fuzzy Dough has been great with these javelins, locking everyone in place here, and that Terra Surge is no different, taking Super Bloom out of the fight before it even really can kick off. And so Fruit Salad find themselves in the driver's seat now, fully controlling the objective here. They're going to have to be careful because plenty of ults coming in for Dreamlight Academy.
Yeah, still holding on to this Kitsune Rush. And the title from Wu Yang ready to go as well. I think that could be a really nice ultimate to give over onto the Hazard. Hazard already has so much kind of engagement potential that if you add in a knockdown effect, it's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, Super Bloom immediately getting the kill onto Hostile, taking them so quickly out of the fight here. Without that pressure of your Genji, everyone else from Fruit Salad is getting rolled over by Dreamlight Academy here. So much speed, so much aggression coming through. Poor Banana Milk, not really much to be done, unfortunately, in the face of such aggression. And with that, you're just having Starry Night ride the waves all across the rest of the objective here. And Dreamlight Academy will take the first point, 100-99.
Ooh, it was very close, a lot of back and forth here. When Fruit Salad were able to kind of move in on this Orisa composition, it was working really well for them. But, I mean, you mentioned it just at the end there, Regs, like just the tempo that's coming out from Dreamlight. Everybody's moving so quickly, and this Wu Yang is really allowing this composition to be aggressive, which is going to work so well with the Hazard and with Super Bloom on this Genji as well. Bandit, of course, putting in a whole lot of work on the Cassidy, but we actually might see a little bit of a swap up here as we do move into City Center next. Bandit looking like they want to potentially play the Freya here. Makes a lot of sense to me. There's lots more high ground to kind of control on the City Center point compared to University, so you really want to have a bit of vertical mobility, and Freya is going to give you just that. Fruit Salad are making a pretty big adjustment here as well, not changing your backline, but you are going to move Fuzzy Dough over on to this Winston, so it's going to be a traditional dive coming out from Fruit Salad and looking for some traditional setup as they're taking a look at this high ground.
Yeah, I do like this composition for Fruit Salad, but unfortunately it's just so much aggression on the side of Dreamlight Academy, and Lucky is just able to dive in and out, slashing all the way through that barrier protection that Fuzzy Dough is hoping to get the benefit from there on those high ground positionings, and Lyran falling down just in such quick fashion here. As Dreamlight Academy, they're able to just sort of divide and conquer the members of Fruit Salad one by one. Someone dives in, they all just get taken down piece by piece. Mafia falling as well, as Lucky's just been so lethal here with this aggression. I'm not able to stop this tank player from Dreamlight Academy here, and they will finally take first cap.
This is really great from Dreamlight because what you don't want to do if like you don't want to allow Fruit Salad to get set up. Banana Milk and Mafia are going to want to get kind of onto this high ground. It's going to be a very strong position for them once they're kind of set up there. But Dreamlight Academy are kind of engaging on Fruit Salad as they're going through these rotations. So they're cutting off the only chance that Fruit Salad have to get up to that high ground because you just have that one jump pad that's going to lead up there. So Dreamlight Academy doing a really great job just denying the fight plan here for Fruit Salad, and no ultimates on the board just yet, but Bandit has done a fantastic job building up to this build out and gonna find another kill to just put them that much closer to the ult.
devastating, taking Banana Milk down, who was going to be the first ultimate on the side of Fruit Salad. Could have cracked this fight open if it had been allowed to go on just a few seconds longer, but Super Bloom has decided that is not going to be the case. Bandit, the DPS line of Dreamlight Academy are just doing so much work to clean up this backline. So much aggression and no chance for Fruit Salad to really get a breath in here. And despite, you know, some attempts at spending, Lyran here is going to swap, and we're going to have the mirror DPS comp on Fruit Salad.
Fuzzydo's gonna swap over onto the Orisa as well, just recognizing that you're not really able to kind of stage for this dive because Dreamlight Academy is just going first in all of these fights. The 1-2 punch from Bandit and Super Bloom has just been absolutely detrimental to Fruit Salad here. Super Bloom's gonna have this blade ready to go. You have the Tidal Blast and you have the Downpour ready to go.
Yeah, Nano unfortunately not able to get anything, does not spend it, though crucially Banana Milk holds on to that for another fight. That will probably be the last fight, though, if Dreamlight Academy has their druthers here. And it's just cleanup scenes coming out, but Super Bloom does get taken down. Lyran falls, I believe, into traffic potentially there. But Bandit is able to clean up alongside Lucky, so despite losing their Genji, we'll be back in no time whatsoever. Dreamlight Academy still in the driver's seat with 4 ults coming in this next fight.
Yeah, it's looking like Fruit Salad maybe gonna get a touch here, but no, the support's taken down. Nobody from Fruit Salad gonna be able to get to that point. Although University was looking very close, it felt like Dreamlight was just absolutely in control here on Sam.
Yeah, quite a difference, honestly. 100 to 99 versus 100 to, well, perhaps I shan't say. Very well played coming out from Dreamlight Academy, really firing on all cylinders. Once they able to switch to this composition on University here, they found this full speed, full dive, front and back line both. Just was doing so much work for the side of Dreamlight Academy here. Really impressive stuff, honestly. Like the way the coordination between tank and DPS especially was just absolutely devastating. There was not even a chance for Fruit Salad to breathe. They barely had space to use their ultimates there. You have Banana Milk building up towards these nanos, and she just couldn't get a chance to use them to actually get any value whatsoever because suddenly luck is on your head. Or if not, you've got a Nerf sword coming through, you know, just landing directly onto you. And Bandit's just launching crossbow bolts from across the map. So yeah, so hard to deal with this aggression, and I wonder what Fruit Salad's answer is going to be going forward.
Yeah, I'm interested to see as well. Of course, we had those bans coming out. We had the D.Va ban and the Lucio ban, and you kind of mentioned that, like, you know, it's not typical that we really see the Lucio ban happening, like, right on first map, but Wuyong has kind of been replacing Lucio in some of these compositions. We saw that it was the Wuyong Kiriko that was being played here by Dreamlight. So maybe the Lucio pick is going to make it a little bit harder to run that because you're not going to have the speed. Like you said, Wuyang's speed is really only going on to Wuyang. So banning out that Lucio, meaning that your opponent's not going to have any speed either, really. I think it worked really well for Dreamlight. So it worked out, you know, getting them the 2-0 victory. But I do wonder if kind of going into these next maps, you might be faced against that Lucio, and that's where you might have a kind of be missing that speed element to your composition.
It's completely possible that that was just sort of a one map sort of situation, compositionally speaking, there for the side of Dreamlight Academy. Either way, it took them to, you know, excellently done the entire way through. But we've got Circuit Royale coming up for our second map in the series here. So again, this is going to play essentially completely opposite of the way that Oasis plays. The way that Control is, it's kind of an anomaly to most other map types here, possibly accepting Flashpoint now. But Circuit Royale is about as, you know, concerted, slowed down escort map as you can possibly get, with all the high ground potential on defense, all the distance you have to climb on offense. This is really a chance to play a slower game type. So if this is more the speed Fruit Salad is finding themselves comfortable with, I'm not at all surprised to see this as our second map here, and hopefully they get a chance to turn things around.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, Circuit typically gonna play a bit slower. We're looking at these kind of like poke compositions that are going to be coming in. Rush was kind of, you know, the flavor of the day when the Ramatra bug was still active, but hey, we mentioned that Blizzard has kind of allegedly corrected this, so not going to be able to just kind of Ramatra block your way through all the damage here, and that has been, I've been seeing a few more teams kind of rolling back to the Sigma here on Circuit Royale, playing kind of that traditional poke with that Hanzo, who did get kind of a bit of a buff in the last patch, not in Season 18, but the projectiles are a little bit bigger, so a little bit easier to kind of find those shots. And Widowmaker, of course, always going to be a favorite here on Circuit as well. And we were kind of mentioning in that Oasis map how good the Dreamlight Academy's DPS were looking. And I think that as we move into Circuit Royale, that could be very dangerous for
I love these bans from both teams here. Fruit Salad spying the great danger that is Bandit on that Freya pick. And as good as Freya is on this map, you clearly do not want to have her in the hands of so lethal an opponent as Bandit. So solid pick, solid ban for Fruit Salad. And for Dreamlight Academy, banning out the Ramatra does mean that your options for slowing it down, your options for that poke composition, of which Ramatra can sometimes be a sort of hybrid pick, are really quite narrow if that's what Fruit Salad wants to run. They don't have as many choices here with the flexibility that Ramatra can sometimes offer you. If you want to play poke, you kind of have to do Sigma. And if you want to do Rush, it's got to be something a bit more vulnerable.
Yeah, something potentially like that Orisa. We did see Fuzzy Doe pick that hero over on Oasis, and like you said, a little bit more vulnerable potentially. You're not going to have necessarily as many cooldowns to kind of sustain through, but it does have kind of those cooldowns to keep people away, and that's kind of the whole idea, is you're using this javelin to keep your opponents at a distance, where Ramatra a little bit more okay with taking a fight just head on. We do also know, of course, that Fuzzy Doe is very good on that Reinhardt, but, well, yeah, if we go into this poke map, I'm not necessarily expecting to see a Reinhardt.
Yeah, and honestly, despite Orisa usually being seen as quite a decent counter to Hazard, Lucky really didn't have any trouble at all in dealing with Fuzzy Doe's Orisa on the first map on Oasis there. So, but all that really doesn't matter if they both roll out on Sigma compositions here, so we can talk till we're blue in the face about it. But right now they decided that Sigma is, again, the tank du jour for Circuit Royale, so that is what we'll be running here. Starry Night still here on the Wuyong, so I'm very curious to see how this operates on a, less speed-oriented map. Of course, plenty of mobility in his pocket there does Wuyong have, so we'll see how fun that is for Starry Night to sort of operate and get a good chance at that. And on the other side, it is the Zen Baptiste backline for Fruit Salad.
Yeah, this is a greedy backline, right? You're really looking to play it for these Discord orbs. I'm also interested to see how the Wuyong's gonna play into kind of a poke composition, because we were really kind of talking up, oh, what a nice way to kind of engage with this Wuyong, but now this isn't necessarily about engaging, right? This is about kind of forcing out cooldowns and, finding the opening thing.
Yeah, it turns out one ban is not enough to deal with Bandit there on this Widowmaker pick, just outranging Lyran immediately, pokes their head around, not able to get any benefit from that so far. We'll just have to take a second try at it whatsoever. But as Mafia still try to poke around here, has played so carefully around this corner. Unfortunately, that Sigma shield, as Fuzzy Doe is operating a little bit closer here, trying to punish out Bandit a little bit closer to that Widowmaker on the high ground here. And so the rest of the team is trying to bundle around the Widowmaker, but Fuzzy Doe is able to find out Starry Night there, with Dust falling quickly afterwards. It looks like this power Sigma on the front line here is exactly what Fruit Salad need to break this defense wide open.
Mafia, the very, very brave Zenyatta. Bandit shooting so many shots, not able to catch them. Mafia, though, staying alive and keeping the Discord orb up in these fights, and I think that Salad is really, really capitalizing on this Discord orb well. Now, we are going to have Dreamlight Academy kind of staging here, potentially looking for a re-engage as the point pushing forward, and no, it is going to be Fruit Salad capping up first point here, but everybody from Dreamlight Academy get this forward spawn, so you're going to be able to take an early fight here. No ultimates really to work with, but if you take this fight long enough, you're going to have the sights okay, and you're going to have the Gravitic Flux online for Lucky as well.
That was not at all where Lucky wanted to be, just falling from that high ground there, but the rest of the team was able to keep them alive. Fortunately, just able to get back up in time there. Almost fell down to hostile, but not able to confirm that kill there, so excellent to get your tank out of dodge. As Super Bloom back here on the Genji, Lucky goes with that Gravitic Flux. First, out of the gate here with that, is going to take down the entirety of the backline as well as Lyran there. That's going to put a nice halt to this and really slow down, buy some more time for Dreamlight Academy.
Yeah, I really like this from Dreamlight. Everybody kind of putting the damage in. As soon as Lucky uses his Gravitic Flux, you catch two, both of them dying immediately. Not only is it giving Bandit a nice clear shot, but everybody else going to look to capitalize on it as well. As we are going to have Lyran, they are looking to take this Widowmaker duel. And honestly, even if you're not getting the better of Bandit here, if you can at least take some attention away from the rest of your team, Lyran is going to be able to find some value here. This Zen Bap backline, not really a whole lot of peel available. This is really all about trying to find the picks here for Fruit Salad.
Yeah, Fuzzy Doe falls well below half health there, but goes with the Flux anyway, and the Immortality Field is spent out by Dust. Does keep it alive for just a moment longer, but unfortunately not able to stay alive for any more than that, as the kills start rolling through for Fruit Salad. Dreamlight Academy falling one by one. Only Lucky is still alive, and even that not for very much longer. So Fruit Salad have finally crested the very top of the hill here, and Dreamlight, they keep losing people here at the back end of this fight. Fruit Salad, they've almost capped point B.
Right, and this is going to be really, really tricky for Dreamlight to come back in with a recontest. It is going to be very close. You have the Blade from Super Bloom ready to go, and Mafia crucially popped that Transcendence in the last fight, so Fruit Salad aren't going to have that in response. Now, you do have a Blade of your own, and there's no Transcendence, as Starry Night has just swapped over to the Zen now.
Finally, touch came through, but an immediate rock to the ulting Genji. Hostile gets nothing for that Blade, and Super Bloom, on the other hand, gets everything and more, taking the entirety of the team of Fruit Salad back to the spawn. Dreamlight Academy, they touched the very last second there, and it turned out to be just the thing to hold the door. It was not the same thing as point A. They were able to get a touch, and we have a little bit more of a climb here for Fruit Salad.
Yeah, that was a really, really nice rock there from Lucky. And I mentioned that everybody from Dreamlight Academy turning and looking at this Gravitic Flux. Will you turn and look at the rocks as well? Another Gravitic Flux, 2 more kills for Dreamlight.
I mean, that is just a clean one and done fight there. Bandit just immediately taking out Lyran and Mafia. No chance at all for them to build up any ult charge whatsoever. Fuzzy Doe is doing her very best to try and, you know, build up towards this Flux once again, but with Lucky able to sort of shut that fight down as quickly as it was, we're still, yeah, there's a little bit of back and forth here at the end of this fight as we're sort of not really fully trickling into the next one here, but Bandit is about to have this overclock, and we'll see exactly how they want to let loose. And we do have, again, Lyran still on this Ashe. Hasn't been able to see a ton of value from it so far here, especially coming in at this from the low ground. Of course, you've got both Sigmas here jogging for position here on the high ground. A nice rock land on the Fuzzy Doe before she goes for the Flux. It still falls so low, has to be careful. Unfortunately, gets taken down immediately as the kill comes through. Dust does get taken down, but Bandit is there to clean up the dregs of that fight. Dreamlight Academy look as though they might win this one out here. It's a bit dicey, but they have the numbers in the end.
Yeah, I'm gonna find these final couple of kills onto Fruit Salad, and now
You did commit that overclock just at the end, found some really big value, but now you only have the Transcendence here from Starry Night to work with. Now, nothing online just yet for Fruit Salad. We kind of mentioned Lyran over on this Ashe. They are going to have the Bob online very shortly, but you mentioned it, Rex. It's really kind of hard to find the value with this Ashe when you're trying to take the high ground, and you're going to have a really hard time getting Bob into a position where he's going to act as kind of this alternate angle, right? You really want Bob to be able to set up behind the enemy or off on a side, just turn attention and force positioning from Dreamlight here. So we'll see what Lyran can get done with it.
Yeah, it does send the Bob all the way through, and they're spending everything on the side of Dreamlight Academy just to keep their tank alive. And here we do have Starry Night going with that Transcendence. Immortality Fields spent as well as the Matrix comes through as well. Both Banana and Dusk are going with those Baptiste ultimates, and unfortunately, Lucky is the first one to fall in the face of that overwhelming damage coming through that window from Lyran. Finally finding some value here on the high ground. The Blade comes out from Super Bloom. I'm hoping there's an attempt to switch from this Genji afterwards here, because otherwise that was a very solo, a very hopeful Blade to be had, but looks like we will get a cap here. Fruit Salad have themselves just under 2 minutes to cap point C.
Fuzzy Doe treating Super Bloom to a little accretion of her own. Now both Genjis getting focused down with some rocks. 3rd point capped here for Fruit Salad. Pushing up, trying to take this high ground as well. And Fuzzy Doe falling kind of low, but he's going to have the support there from her team. Also have the Blade and the Gravitic Flux here from Fruit Salad to try and work with. Lucky has been able to build up to a Gravitic Flux nearly as well. Now, you have no Zenyatta, no Transcendence on the side of Fruit Salad, but Banana Milk will have the lamp potentially to sustain through this. No, Fruit Salad gonna opt to just back up a little bit. Dreamlight pushing forward, trying to find something. Won't get too greedy though.
Yeah, both Sigmas have Flux ready to go for this next fight. Bandit, of course, with that overclock can be so lethal for these enemies suspended in the air. So Fruit Salad have to be so careful and play so defensively even as they're trying to attack in these narrow choke points here. Hostile does have the blade while Super Bloom is still building up to it once again. So as far as the support ults go, still a little bit dry coming in this fight here. Flux is out on both sides as we do have one come up, the other come down. Lucky does get saved by the Immortality Field, but we'll see for how long, as just hovering a little bit below half at this point. Finally getting healed up though with the immense backline support being had inside Dreamlight Academy here. Overclock on the high ground, not able to find a ton of value as Bandit is hiding behind these bandits here just to stay alive and hopefully put so much more pressure in. But all Dreamlight Academy have to do is buy time here because we're down to under 20 seconds.
Yeah, a lot of time burned off the clock by Dreamlight here. You're gonna have the Transcendence and the window coming online very shortly, but Lyran is gonna find the better of Bandit, who is set up on that high ground and just absolutely raining down damage onto Fruit Salad.
Yeah, Lyran does get that kill early on, so without Bandit, there is so much reduced high ground pressure coming through from Dreamlight Academy here. Gonna be back in the fight as quick as possible, but Super Bloom is, however, picking up the pace as it goes, but Banana Milk does clean up that Genji, so no DPS here on the cart for the moment for Dreamlight Academy here on the defense. Overtime has finally begun ticking down here, so Fruit Salad has to play so carefully around the objective. Lyran does eat a bit of her up, but taking down Lucky, that is a trade you will take any day of the week. But as they lose Fuzzy Dough, however, both tanks falling down in this fight, starting to look a little bit more precarious, but Lyran does land from the high ground, taking Bandit out as well. The Sojourn on to the other Sojourn. That is some violence that you love to see here. As Dreamlight Academy on the defense, they have sort of witnessed this one fall down piece by piece, and Fruit Salad, they might push this all the way through.
Yeah, no ultimates here from Fruit Salad to work with, though. If Dreamlight Academy can take just a little bit of a longer fight, you're going to have this Gravitic Flux, and you're going to have the Blade for Dreamlight Academy to work with. So it's all about Fruit Salad trying to take down either this Sigma or this Genji to try and shut it down.
Flux through from Lucky, trying to just lift everyone off the payload. It's been ticking for so long now that you just need them off there for a single second, and that'll be enough to win you the round and close out this offense from Fruit Salad here. Starry Knight is able to get 2 kills. Lucky able to boop out Mafia as well. That should be enough. That will clean this up. That will hold on the defensive side for Dreamlight Academy, but Fruit Salad make an excellent push here on their offense, going all the way into point C, just shy of that final checkpoint. So a win condition for Dreamlight, certainly, but quite a strong distance for Fruit Salad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Fruit Salad maybe had a little bit of a struggle there kind of on second point, but once you kind of got through, you get a bit of space collected here on the third point. Not too shabby at all, but it does set a very clear win condition here for Dreamlight Academy, who are looking to pick up their second win in the series and potentially put themselves at that match point. And just got to get about halfway through that third point. I'm interested to see if they are going to start out on this Wu Yang. We saw Starry Knight kind of end up swapping off of it. Is going to be hovering over this Baptiste for the attack. So we'll have another look at Dreamlight Academy once the doors are ready to open. Fruit Salad, though, on this defense, nothing too crazy here. I like Lyran over on this Sojourn. We saw them play a couple of different heroes here on Circuit Royale, but I think really finding the comfort here in the Sojourn. Sojourn's still in a very, very good position. You can build up that rail shot, and I mean, we were seeing them hit just rail after rail. The overclocks also looking really good, honestly, from both of these hit scans for Dreamlight.
Yeah, you said it, Rain. Lyran on this Sojourn, I really kind of wanted them to swap to it earlier on, especially on point B. Would have been really nice to find those opening picks on the aggressive side. And by the time we got to it on point C, Lyran was really able to take it to Bandit there. That mirror was very equal once we got into point C there. So an excellent choice here on the offense. Bandit, though, or rather on the defense, as Bandit does have this Widowmaker. We'll see how long they decide to stick with it here. Not as common on the offense, but still plenty of solid sightlines to be had, as you can see them just trying to find a single head that would crack this fight wide open here. But Super Bloom is the first one to get the pick, cleaning up Fuzzy Dough, and without that tank, everyone else has to scramble. And unfortunately, scrambling targets make delicious feast for Bandit on this Widowmaker. So they will clean up this first fight here pretty quick fashion as Fruit Salad. They have plenty of time to rethink their approach.
Yeah, and we mentioned it kind of before we came into Circuit. Circuit is so known for just being kind of the DPS players' playground, and Super Bloom and Bandit are just absolutely tearing Fruit Salad apart right now. Now, Fruit Salad are going to have a chance to come back in for a contest here, but Bandit is set up very comfortably over on an angle, and now you don't have Hostile to try and make this one happen.
Yeah, shutting down that aggressing Genji so early on, you really have to play so much more carefully now. No more pressure. That being said, Lucky falling down maybe a little bit too far forward as you would like to see there. So without that, Fruit Salad look as though they're the ones in the driver's seat so far. Still have to be worried about Bandit. Could easily find a pick out at any point, but it looks as though they're going to back off for just a moment here.
Yeah, Dreamlight respecting Fruit Salad. Don't want to get staggered out here. Now, I do have the sights ready to go from Bandit, so I'm assuming once everybody kind of gets back for Dreamlight, using these sights is just going to force positioning here from Fruit Salad, as everybody's going to be just kind of hiding from this Widowmaker.
Yeah, Fruit Salad, they know exactly that they are being fully exposed here by this Widowmaker ultimate. No chance for them to hide, no corner is safe, but Hostile getting the kill onto Lucky as that tank duel over the cart goes the way of Fruit Salad. Bandit, though, is still devastating. You have to be very conscious of this Widowmaker at all angles here. Trying to find these kills, trying to find these picks. Fuzzy Doe, however, still holding forth here on the objective. Having your tank when the opponent doesn't, that is going to give you so many more advantages, especially as they're pushing forward around these corners here, and we're sub 2-minute territory for Dreamlight.
Yeah, Fruit Salad are looking so strong on this defense here. You've got so many ults coming online. You already have the Flux in the window ready to go. Lyran's going to be able to build up to the overclock very, very quickly. Now, on the side of Dreamlight, I mean, you have a window to kind of answer with, which I expect we're probably going to see a little bit behind on the Gravitic Flux, but it's this Blade from Super Bloom that I'm really looking for, because Mafia does not have this Transcendence online and is not going to get it online in time for this Blade. We've seen Super Bloom do absolute decimation to the side of Fruit Salad with these blades, so they're gonna have to be really careful.
Fuzzy Joe has that ultimate ready to go. The Flux lets loose on the side of Fruit Salad, and it is perfect, holding everyone up there just so that Lyran can use this overclock here and clean up all the remaining bodies of Dreamlight Academy sent packing back to spawn. We are down under a minute here, and what a quick 1-2 punch. 3 ultimates spent, but well worth it for allowing Mafia to build up to that Transcendence, something that can easily win a fight coming here up to the very last seconds.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. This Transcendence from Mafia is going to be so crucial. Now, Dusk is going to have one to respond with, but for the Blade coming out from Hostile. So it's kind of, this last fight is really going to come down to kind of the battle of the Blades. Lucky, though, has this Flux in the back pocket as well to work with.
Bandit over onto the Sojourn, takes Lyran out of the fight early. No chance for that Sojourn to be losing those rails in your opponent's head. Super Bloom has that blade rolling through, takes Banana Milk out. She is no longer a factor. Very little healing on the side of Fruit Salad for just a few more moments here. Mafia falling as well outside of that Transcendence. Looks as though 3 ults beats 2 at the end of the day here. Dreamlight Academy, they are not out of this one just yet. They're going to roll into point A with no time on the clock, but 2.5 minutes that they gain from capping.
I can't lie, when I saw the Flux and the Blade come out at the same time for Dreamlight, I'm a little hesitant there, because Mafia is able to pop that Transcendence at the same for the same ultimates, but Super Bloom, well, she's able to just absolutely cut through it, so no harm, no foul.
Yeah, and with that, Dreamlight Academy now have plenty of space to work with here, kind of the opposite of their defense. They're pushing so far forward here onto the high ground, and it's all that Fuzzy Doe can do to keep the rest of her team alive, but unfortunately, not even that is in the cards for Fruit Salad here. A nice accretion to the Dome of Lucky, but just shrugs that off at the end of the day, taking Fuzzy Doe and the rest of the DPS line out there. Fruit Salad, I mean, we just have Dusk here, gently babysitting the payload, as is the wont of many a Zenyatta.
Hanging out, pushing this payload forward. Now Bandit and Starry Night are the 2 ultimates online here. Starry Night gonna go ahead and pop this one early, trying to just shut out Fruit Salad before they can even walk through this choke point.
Love this aggression out from Dreamlight Academy. So excellent to control this necessary choke point here. Getting that widescreen TV up, pulling the entire space of the doorway. But Lucky falling down early on is really not at all what you want to see on the side of Dreamlight Academy here. That was potentially your main win condition coming into this fight. If you could allow her to build up towards that ultimate, that could certainly clinch it out at the end of this engagement here. But with the rest of Fruit Salad returning to the payload, they're able to hold strong here at the end of this fight. And again, now we're down to 1 minute for Dreamlight Academy.
Yeah, if Dreamlight want to win this, you either have to do it in this next fight, or you need to do it in overtime, which is going to be stressful nonetheless. Now, it is just the window that's currently online here for Fruit Salad, but Lyran's going to be able to build up to this overclock. It's so, we talked about it. They have gotten so much value from it. Dreamlight now, you don't have any ults to work with except for this Flux, like you mentioned, Rags, that Lucky's going to be coming up on. So if I'm Dreamlight, I'm taking a little bit slower of a fight here. You have a little bit of time to work with. You really want to make this next fight count. Oh. No, Bandit's down.
Now, Bandit falling, that is really going to spell the end of this push here. Honestly, Dreamlight Academy might be better off if they just beat a retreat here and try and come back as one concerted team, but unfortunately, the fight is still ongoing. There's no clean way to escape here. Lucky does go through with the Flux. Doesn't able to find any kills with it, though, unfortunately, as Fuzzy Doe is about to build up to one of her own. That could easily be the finisher for this engagement here. Losing your main DPS, your absolute finisher here in Bandit early on in that fight, just put such a stopper to this aggression. Dreamlight Academy are just going to have to get boots on the payload here for one last chance. Super Bloom is going for that blade with no health to speak of whatsoever. The Flux comes through, and Fuzzy Doe is clinical with that application of gravity there. Starry Night did not stand a chance, unfortunately, against the Sigma. And with the rest of Fruit Salad just rolling forward one by one, Dreamlight Academy are going to fall down on their offense here and will go down in the series now, tied at 1-1.
Ooh, nice pushback here from Fruit Salad, looking very, very good on this poke composition. And we were kind of, well, I was definitely kind of hyping up the DPS from Dreamlight, who did a fantastic job, but Fruit Salad just as a whole looking very, very put together kind of on this circuit map. And this is exactly why they opted to take us over to circuit. They knew exactly what they were doing, and really impressive stuff from them to kind of bounce back from that, shutting down the momentum that Dreamlight was really looking to kind of carry through this series with that first win on Oasis.
Yeah, really loved everything that we were seeing here. Completely agree with you, Rain, that like the composition, the choice of map really felt like they had their game plan under control. They knew exactly what they wanted to run, what they needed to run in order to, you know, put the screws to Dreamlight Academy's composition here, especially with the speed they were running on Oasis. Not having a chance to run that same sort of style here on Circuit Royale, really beautiful stuff. Honestly, both offense and defense there. They were able to maintain that high ground control for so much longer than Dreamlight Academy were on their own defense coming through there, not even allowing them to cap point B once all said and done. So despite some aggression out from Dreamlight Academy, some really solid plays coming forward, I honestly kind of thought they were going to cap point B on the backs of that massive push. They were going all the way almost into the spawn, but with the rest of that, really well played on the defense. Fruit Salad stuck to their guns, and honestly, it paid dividends.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see now what Dreamlight is going to opt to take us to for this next map, because we just had Oasis and then Circuit, so like that is a huge pivot in its own, and now like pretty much no matter where we move to, it's going to be like another pivot, kind of Circuit Royale having that really niche kind of a play style. So both teams are kind of going to have to adjust what they're running to kind of fit into whatever the next map is, which is going to be, all right, well, it's going to be Blizzard World, so heading over to a hybrid map for this third one.
All right, and we'll have to see exactly what the ban choices are as well. Because, of course, as we've seen so far, they've really been very informative for how these teams are approaching each other coming into this. Clearly two very distinct styles. Despite being able to play each other's game, it really feels as though Dreamlight and Fruit Salad both have their own style that they want to be running and want to find the best way to control the meta to their benefit here. So, like you were saying, there's room for different compositions to be had on Hybrid, especially with the wide openness of, you know, the first 2 points of Blizzard World and just the great lengths you have to travel. Really long sightlines to be had here. There's a lot of possibilities to be had. If you want to return to that hazard composition for Dreamlight Academy, that's certainly within your wheelhouse. But there's also a lot to be said for these more poke, Ramatra, or Sigma compositions. Maybe less so Sigma, but Ramatra has a lot of flexibility, allowing you to both brawl and poke here, whether it's high ground or on the objectives. So that's not going to be banned out. Ramatra's going to be back in the pool here if Fruit Salad does feel like they want to run that. So curious to see exactly, you know, what wrench they're going to throw into each other's gears.
Yeah, I am as well. So Dreamlight Academy will end up having kind of the first ban here. And then Fruit Salad will have to respond with it. Now, I do think coming into Blizzard World, Fruit Salad have kind of, you know, we've seen them play a little bit of the dive. I do know that Lucky kind of more favors that Winston potentially, which is an interesting kind of to compare that over to Dreamlight, where a little bit more comfortable with kind of these brawl compositions. You shouted out the Hazard, which I think would be a really great option here for Dreamlight, where not only do you have kind of that access to the high ground, but you also have a little bit of brawl potential as well to kind of hold yourself on that point. And we did also get to see a bit of Brig Anna earlier on Oasis, which I do think could kind of make a reappearance here. That was on the side of Fruit Salad. So I'm thinking if you want to run that kind of Brig Anna backline, it would make a whole lot of sense to have Fuzzy Doe maybe play that Winston or potentially the Diva. We did have the Diva ban in the first map as well. So obviously thinking that that could potentially be an option for this roster.
Yeah, I would really love to see that backline coming through, especially for Fruit Salad. I mean, Dreamlight Academy could certainly make it work, but they've kind of made it clear that they want to be running with that speed. That Kiriko Wuyong backline could certainly serve them in good stead here. And Fruit Salad, anticipating this, will ban out the Wuyong, as we do have the Orisa ban coming through from Dreamlight Academy. So again, these teams both have an excellent read on their opponents. They know exactly who they want out of the hands. Really getting a chance to see that it is the tanks that are being banned most on the side of Dreamlight Academy. They really do not want to give specific options to build around for Fruit Salad, whereas Fruit Salad, they're looking for those pain points, those specific breakpoint heroes that seem to be the one thing, that it factor that allows Dreamlight to roll over them.
Yeah, I love this Wuyang ban coming out from Fruit Salad as much as I would love to see more Wuyang gameplay. Oasis, you definitely kind of struggled with that Wuyang on the side of Dreamlight. I think Starry Night was doing a really great job keeping her tank alive and like really enabling Lucky to push in aggressively on that Hazard, and you kind of gave it a little shout out. Like, we could potentially see the Hazard here on Blizzard World. So if you're taking that Wuyang out of the picture, it's going to allow Hazard to just kind of not push in as far as maybe you'd really like to, because that support available in the same way that you would if you had the Wuyang. And then Dreamlight Academy banning out the Orisa. I mean, this is Fuzzy Dough's kind of like icon hero. Picking it on Oasis earlier and looking pretty good on it. We know that she's very comfortable on it and is able to shine through when she has the opportunity. So banning that out on Blizzard World, I'm interested to see if Fruit Salad now are going to kind of pivot over onto the Ramatra and play that similar kind of a brawl style, or if they're just going to swap things up entirely and maybe try and move over onto.
Yeah, and honestly, there's tons of room to work with for, I'm thinking about Bandit specifically here. Of course, you could go back to that Freya, who is now unbanned after the previous map. But again, on point A especially, and even moving into point B at certain points, Widowmaker is also quite possible. Now, you could just continue running with the Sojourn compositions, both these teams looking very able and adept on the Sojourn Genji. Just a staple of Overwatch 2 kind of since day one for the game, that composition talking. But yeah, without Wuyang, I mean, you could certainly just default to your basic Kiriko Lucio backline and really play as if nothing had changed whatsoever. There wasn't even a new hero release. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, so that into the Ana break that we're kind of expecting to come out from Fruit Salad here. Again, a clash of compositions, a clash of ideals. And I really love to see it when these two teams sort of dig their heels in and kind of stick to their guns, decide what they want to run, and sort of force their own composition into this. We got to see the sort of the tank merry-go-round, you know, the rotating turns of counter tank picks in the first map on Oasis. So we'll see if that continues here. Although again, as you said, Rain, without Orisa, that really seems to be the comfort for the side of Fruit Salad. So I think that's going to be a bit of a difficulty for them to work with.
Yeah, I agree. There's gonna have to be a pretty big pivot here off of your comfort heroes. I also think, you know, having your Orisa be banned out in, which is a map that is not like, you know, a detrimental map, you would still come back from this. You might feel good about that if you're Fruit Salad, because that means that Dreamlight's not gonna be able to ban out this Orisa on any more maps. So we'll see. Okay, yeah, Fuzzy Dough there's no way we're gonna get the Roadhog, but we do get the Freya coming in from Bandit. You kind of gave a little shout out there, Regs, and I think that Freya is an excellent option here on Blizzard World. Lots of high ground to kind of work around, and of course, Bandit has just looked so dangerous, well, on every hero they've picked, but the Freya definitely gonna be able to put a lot of burst damage. Potentially moving over, oh, we are moving over onto the Kiriko here, so that's what Starry Night's gonna flex over onto with that Wuyang out, and that is gonna mean that the Lucio is making a reappearance here for Dreamlight, and Lucky over on the D.Va as well, so D.Va not banned out. Looks like they're not gonna opt to go over to the Swinston, they are going to play the D.Va instead. Now, on the attack here for Fruit Salad, Fuzzy Dough gonna go ahead and come out on this Sigma. So it is a little bit of kind of a poke composition making an appearance here for Fruit Salad.
Yeah, Dreamlight really has favored running this diva composition. Lucky has just been so skilled with it the entire way through, and having her lead the charge here certainly makes a great deal of sense on the defense. Of course, Bandit, Super Bloom trying to tag team for that pincer maneuver, but unfortunately Fuzzy Dough is just being sent all the way through here as you've got this Lucio Baptiste backline here, this sort of hybrid composition that Fruit Salad are running just to sort of send Fuzzy Dough all the way onto the objective. She's holding forth here as a Sigma in like second gear, just completely powering over the rest of Dreamlight Academy. I am not sure that they thought this is the composition we were going to get from Fruit Salad.
I definitely did not think this is the way that this composition that Fruit Salad had was going to be played. Yeah, like you said, just barreling forward on the Sigma, really working out here for Fruit Salad. So much time in the time bank, and we have Fruit Salad trying to push onto this high ground. Now, Dreamlight Academy are already set up here, so it's going to be not taken for free. But if Fruit Salad can kind of work their way onto this high ground, that is going to allow this cart to just push forward essentially for free. You take all the aggro on this front line on the high ground.
Yeah, and point A was functionally non-existent here. There are still over 5 minutes to go just to take point B here on the side of Fruit Salad's offense. So Dreamlight Academy have their work cut out for them. Doubly so, the fact that Lucky is now out of her mech. No chance for that Diva to really contribute at all to this fight here. Bandit is doing the best they possibly can, about to build up towards this bola shot, and Dreamlight Academy has to be said, they are building these ultimates, but unfortunately, as Slyrin takes down Starry Knight, another candidate for a potential first ultimate coming through, not a chance to use it here, as Bandit is just having to hurry it back as quickly as they can, but it looks as though, yeah, Hostile is there to confirm that kill, and that payload has not stopped this entire time, Rain.
Yeah, Dreamlight just hasn't really been able to get a toe on it. Fruit Salad is just finding kind of stagger kill after stagger kill after stagger kill, and we see the point basically moving into the second tier. You're gonna have to walk through Fuzzy Dough if you want to try and get a touch. No, this Jedi is gonna absolutely shut down any idea that Dreamlight Academy had of getting a touch in here, and now the ball is seriously rolling here for Fruit Salad.
I mean, we are just witnessing Fruit Salad heating up here, picking up steam the further they get in this series. There were certainly plenty of close points to be had on Oasis, but honestly, that was Dreamlight Academy's map from start to finish, all things considered. But Fruit Salad has just found themselves in the driver's seat here. They have very much decided to take matters into their own hands. And coming through here onto Blizzard World, I mean, Dreamlight Academy were the ones in control of this, but Fruit Salad have decided this is entirely their game to lose at this point. Fuzzy Dough going through with the flux on the high ground, trying to spot out the members of Dreamlight. Yeah, and with that, Lucky falling down. No chance to benefit from this Winston here. So much mobility counts for nothing when you are caught in that flux. Lyran as well combining to take out the remaining members of Dreamlight Academy, who are being pushed back into spawn with 5 minutes still left to go.
Oh, just absolutely beautiful cycling happening from Fruit Salad right now. Every time we see Dreamlight try and respond with an ultimate, there's something there from Fruit Salad. The Gravitic Flux being committed, now it's going to be the window and the beat in response to this play from Super Blue.
All right, Dreamlight Academy letting loose as well here. Of course, all ults being spent, and there's unfortunately no one left to touch the objective. Rain, I was really gearing up to talk for another like 30 seconds on that point, and then they just kind of weren't on it anymore, and so there goes the rest of that offense in what, at least to me, 4 minutes 33 on the clock. That is, to me, for what I can recall, the fastest I have ever seen. I don't think the payload stopped. I think it kept moving even when it was on the objective. I think this was a secret payload hack. I don't know what happened.
That's a very, very hefty time bank here from Fruit Salad. And Dreamlight, you gotta be stumbling a little bit here, because you said it right. This was Dreamlight's map pick here. They had a plan kind of coming into this. You ban out the Orisa thinking that is gonna slow down Fuzzy Dough. She moves over onto the Sigma, and she's low-key kind of playing it like an Orisa, and it's really, really working for her because she has the support there to kind of back her up. Looking absolutely incredible, and now Fruit Salad are looking to stick with the same composition over on the defense here. I think that this is going to work really, really well for them because this is, typically a poke. Yes, Fruit Salad was running it as a rush on attack, but you're going to be able to do a whole lot of damage onto Dreamlight Academy as they're kind of pushing in through this choke point. And if Dreamlight Academy look to keep Lucky on this Winston, that could be detrimental coming into a Cassidy and a Sigma.
I have heard of Poke Orisa, but I was not at all ready for Brawl Sigma. It was honestly terrifying just to see this floating Dutchman speeding directly onto the objective there, toes out and everything. And of course, Dreamlight Academy, they had their chance to reel from it, and they are now putting themselves back in control here. They are on that Winston pick as Lucky is piloting this tank here on to the high ground as best as you, well, you hope you can get on this high ground, but unfortunately, you do have to worry about displacing the Sigma, or you just bypass it entirely here, as Lucky has opted to do. But unfortunately, the rest of her team is not quite up and ready to heal at a moment's notice, as Starry Night and Dusk are both getting found out here, as Lyran is now on this Cassidy pick, the perfect thing to counter all this speedy mobility on the side of Dreamlight Academy. The exact thing Fruit Salad knew that Dreamlight was going to run in here, and that's the first fight done and dusted. Fruit Salad none the worse for wear.
Yep, looking really good. Gonna get themselves set up on this high ground. Now, if you're Dreamlight Academy, you basically have two ways that you can kind of play this. With Bandit moving on over to the Sojourn, it's gonna be a little bit different, but Lucky really needs to wait for Super Bloom to kind of get into a position so that she can engage on these dives as well, because if Lucky goes in on her own, she's gonna get absolutely shut down from Fruit Salad. A lot of kind of anti-dive potential here, and with Hostile over on this Tracer, Dreamlight Academy not having a Tracer of their own, that's gonna create a lot of pressure on the support line of Dreamlight.
Hostile gets a little bit too close for comfort there as Dusk is able to clean up the Tracer on the side of Fruit Salad there. Dreamlight finally have a chance to get themselves onto the objective here, but Super Bloom falling down as well. No chance for that Genji as well, so it's 1-for-1 kind of here on the objective as Fruit Salad still feeling strong on this defense. You still have Fuzzy Dough eating so much damage with that grasp and still able to put in so much pressure here as Lucky is still holding down the objective here. You do have Fuzzy Dough putting toe after toe onto the objective, but there's really not a whole lot that she can do without the support of her team to back her up. And it looks like they are going to get a touch once again here on the side of Fruit Salad. Hostile falling so low. Super Bloom back in the fight alongside the enemy Tracer does fall down immediately. The Fuzzy Dough does get the flux though. Calls with 2 kills on the side of Dreamlight Academy. Fruit Salad still are in control at this point for a moment longer. Both tanks looking very worse for wear, trying to get healed up by their respective backlines. Lucky, though, does have the benefit of that beat coming through from Dusk, as Mafia is about to build up to one of their own. We'll see if it is able to let loose, and with Lucky falling down, certainly seems likely, and also like you might not even need it for this one.
Right? Oh my gosh, Fruit Salad touching it just kind of the last second there. 2 ticks acquired here from Dreamlight, but Fruit Salad, just absolutely incredible stuff. They're not using any ultimates except for that flux. So you have 4 ultimates to hold this point. 1 tick. Dreamlight Academy are going to be working with nearly 4 ultimates of their own. We saw that beat committed there from Dusk, not quite connecting, but we do have this Blade and potentially able to pair that with this Kitsune Rush, but Mafia has this beat ready to go, needs to be able to time it right so that you can sustain through this Blade coming in from Super Blue.
Fruit Salad can just keep themselves alive. They have this one in the bag, but unfortunately the first thing that happens mid-Deadeye, Starry Night takes down Lyran there as the pulse bomb comes through onto Lucky, is able to just dive out of the way there, letting loose for that Primal Rage as well. Blade comes through from Super Bloom, not able to find much more than the Immortality field there as Fuzzy Dough does clean them up at the very end of that fight. She goes down, and with Mafia falling as well, Dusk Bandit as well going into the end of this fight here. Looks as though Fruit Salad have finally been able to hold once more. Starry Night, though, still alive and kicking, taking out Hostile. Without Lucky, though, this fight must surely be done for Dreamlight. We're down to 30 seconds.
Oh, and no ultimates in the bank here for Dreamlight. You aren't even close. Like, if you take a long fight, you're not going to be able to build up to this beat. And now there's a Gravitic Flux and a window on the side of Fruit Salad to work with here. Now, Dreamlight need to create some space for Bandit on this Sojourn because you're really looking to kind of get a railgun pick here. That's really what you're kind of banking on, and then you can kind of just steamroll through that, but it's going to be the engagement first from Fruit Salad.
High ground dive, Lucky falling down to sub 100, and unfortunately no one is on the objective yet again. I really don't know how much more of that I can take, but Dreamlight Academy, they unfortunately, despite putting themselves in a solid position to aggress on that high ground, I mean, gaming that out. Lucky falling as low as she did. Unfortunately, it looks as though so much pressure being had onto that Winston, and like you mentioned, Rain, no ults coming through really means that there's not a whole lot of pressure they're able to put onto the objective going forward, so likely at the end of the day it was going to go Fruit Salad's way, yes, but that is just not at all the way you want to watch that one go out for Dreamlight Academy. Both on their offense and defense, just not able to get toes down on the point, allowing Fruit Salad to run away with it. But honestly, that was just icing on the cake of the delicious feast that Fruit Salad provided on their offense, which gave them so much to work with, even if Dreamlight had gotten all the way to the end.
Yeah, it was going to be a very, very tall order for Dreamlight, even if you managed to cap up that first point. But yeah, Fruit Salad turning it around on Dreamlight's map pick here, setting themselves at a match point here as we head into this fourth map, which is once again going to be Dreamlight Academy's pick. So you tried to run out on the hybrid, it didn't quite work for you. Now you have an escort and you have a push to work with. Is that right? Am I forgetting maps here? No, you don't have escort because we did circuit. It's a push and a flashpoint that you have to work with.
There you go. I would have believed you as well. It has been a very long day for everybody involved. But yes, coming into our fourth and potentially final now map of the series here, Fruit Salad are in control of the board, but Dreamlight Academy are the ones who gets to choose exactly where we are going to go. And honestly, I would not have predicted this, outcome looking at the very first map in the series. Dreamlight Academy started so strong here in the series, but folks, we are going to go to a quick break actually before we get into the last, potentially last map of the series here, fourth one. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Hi folks, welcome back to Calling All Heroes Rising. We are deep in the match between Fruit Salad and Dreamlight Academy here. Fruit Salad up 2-1 in this series, and honestly, with as good as they've looked the past two maps, it really feels as though the match is now in their hands, and Dreamlight Academy are the ones on the back foot and have to do everything possible to prevent losing this one 3-1.
Yeah, Dreamlight Academy started off really, really strong, looking like a clean sweep on Oasis 2-0 there, but Fruit Salad answering back, winning not only their map pick in Circuit Royale, but winning Dreamlight Academy's map pick in Blizzard World as well. So now Fruit Salad have the momentum, and they look to carry that forward as we will head into map 4. It's our newest Flashpoint, Atlas.
All right, I am so excited we get to see this one on stream. Honestly, every time in my games, people try and vote for other maps that aren't this one. And I'm like, how will you get good at the new map if you don't play the new map? That is all I have to say. But I'm excited we're playing the new map, everybody. This is fantastic. And as a good way to switch things up, honestly, if you're going to Flashpoint and you're, you feel like you understand what your opponent wants to run in the usual Flashpoint maps, the two that we've had to work with for so long at this point here, going into the new option is pretty much the only thing you can throw in as a wild card here. It's the best chance you have to throw Fruit Salad off their game and sort of find your own way through the chaos here.
Yeah, I agree. And Dreamlight picking the Flashpoint map to send us over to is going to be, similar shades of what we saw over on the Control map. And we have the bans ready to go here as well. Okay, and Dreamlight Academy coming right out with the Reaper ban. And then Fruit Salad going to ban out that Kiriko.
Kiriko ban, absolutely perfect from Fruit Salad. They have really not missed a beat here in terms of getting their bans coming through. Onto Dreamlight Academy here. You really know that they want to run this Wu Young Kiriko backline, but yeah, you're getting each piece of that band out one by one the past two maps here. And the Reaper ban, we haven't seen any Reaper so far in this series, but yeah, just getting that out of the way, of course. There's still room for that if you want to ban out, protecting the DPS line. That is always a possibility.
Yeah, that's so true. It could just be kind of a protect ban coming out here from Dreamlight, where you did have that first ban to start with. So that means that Fruit Salad not going to be able to ban out the Reaper, or a DPS. But I do think that you are absolutely just spot on, Regs. I think that Fruit Salad were really looking to kind of ban out this support line. And Wu Yang, we haven't really seen him get a whole lot of playtime with anybody other than the Kiriko. So banning out the Kiri, you're either going to force Dreamlight Academy to really kind of pivot, and perhaps if you need to play this Wu Young, you're going to play it with something that you're just not really as practiced on, or you're not really going to be able to run the Lucio Kiri, which is what we've also seen Dreamlight kind of pivot towards. But Fruit Salad, I'm interested to see what backline you're thinking you're going to run now, because you have also kind of been running this Kiriko, but we did get to see a little bit of the Brig Ana earlier from Fruit Salad on Oasis. Not necessarily anticipating to see that here, as, yes, Baptiste does still exist, right, Rain? Yes, that's a crow.
I mean, we all could sometimes be forgiven for forgetting that a certain hero at certain points tends to not exist. I know, we just got to see him a little bit before. But yes, that Baptiste Lucio backline out from Dreamlight, and we've got Banana Milk now. She'll be back on that Ana on the side of Fruit Salad here. So Ana Lucio, not terribly common, but Flashpoint, Demens, Strange Bedfellows coming through here, so not terribly unsurprising, especially considering the way they've been playing with Fuzzy Dough on this Sigma here. Now, Lucky is on the Junker Queen, something we've not gotten to see from her so far this series. So wants to run directly over that Sigma. Of course, Dreamlight Academy probably figuring they're going to face this speedy Sigma here on the objective, as Super Bloom is able to get the first kill onto Hostile there without your Tracer to worry about. Bandit still able to run rampant over the backline of Fruit Salad, as Fuzzy Dough, however, does get the kill on Super Bloom. So for a second there, just taken out as you please. Fruit Salad still looking like they're in control of this high ground situation here, but Dreamlight Academy want to get control of the objective. So Lucky does fall down, trying to get in these massive axe swings coming through with that Carnage, hoping to land in enough damage to break down Fuzzy Dough's defenses. As Bandit, though, is still going rampant in the backline. You do have Banana Milk falling down, but Lyran and Fuzzy Dough are able to get the kills, as well as Mafia teaming up. Really a whole team effort from Fruit Salad to get the kills. Dreamlight Academy, and they're still ticking up with that first control.
Ooh, first control and first ultimate on the board. Fuzzy already has this Ravitic Flux ready to go. Lucky is going to swap off of that Junker Queen over onto the Zarya here. So looking to maybe use these bubbles to allow Super Bloom on this Genji to get a little bit more aggressive, because Lyran on this Cassidy is going to be able to shut down not only Super Bloom but Bandit as well.
Bandit about to have that pulse bomb ready. In fact, uses it immediately. Gets 2 kills for the trouble. Lyran unfortunately not able to shut down much of anything with the pulse bomb, sending you quick smart back to spawn. Lucky is able to get the better of Fuzzy Doe here on this Zarya pick instead. Really solid to sort of eat through all that barrier and all that grass potential that Fuzzy Doe has on this Sigma here. So Dreamlight Academy, and just the nick of time here at 87% Fruit Salad, they are now in control of the center point.
Yeah, Dreamlight, I like that pulse bomb from Bandit. I like the Zarya swap as well. I think allowing a little bit more kind of protection here for the backline of Dreamlight Academy, who now have both ultimates ready to go. But it is a nano here from Banana Milk. We'll see who that goes over onto.
Yeah, Starry pops the window, but unfortunately it's falling so low. She has to be careful, but unfortunately you do have Hostile rolling forward. No chance to get away at that point. Mafia as well, teaming up for the kills. And Fruit Salad, they may have just let one fight go their opponent's way, but yeah, they are really the ones in control of Station here. The center point goes entirely their way at the end of the day. Dusk about to have this barrier as well as Mafia, so look for those Lucio ults in this next fight.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're looking at here. Now, there is going to be a bleed coming online shortly here from Super Bloom as we head over to Resort as our next sub point. And it's just that beat from Mafia that's going to be coming online. You have to wonder if you want to either just kind of play it safe here, wait for some ultimates to come out from Dreamlight Academy, or if you maybe want to try and force a better beat here. Try to force the beat out of Dusk and then go in with a second beat here, as the point is going to be unlocking soon, but the team's just not concerned about the point at all.
Lucky is so hungry to force the issue, wants to force Fuzzy Doe out of position, but unfortunately just takes so much damage, not really able to stand down in the face of all that pressure coming through. And even with those bubbles, not able to really rinse off that anti coming through from Banana Milk, who's able to clean up so much of that fight off the back of that massive utility from the Ana. So yeah, Fruit Salad looking very solid here, rotating around comfortably as a team, able to position Fuzzy Doe where she needs to be at all times here. And even the powerhouse that is Azaria in the front line is not able to break through this incredible shield wall that Fuzzy Doe is presenting.
One thing we didn't really touch on when we mentioned the Kiriko ban is that these anti-nades are going to stick. We're going to have Starry Night swap over onto an Ana of her own, so also trying to capitalize on these anti-nades. And you already find the tank here from Fruit Salad.
Yeah, Super Bloom, perfect finisher onto Fuzzy Doe. Lyran, however, does not let Dusk get away, but Hostile also has the Pulse Bomb. With that, though, it looks like it's not going to be quite enough for Fruit Salad to continue this fight in their favor. Lucky is down to 8 of health, but after getting a few kills onto the opposing side, no one alive left to do enough damage to finish her off.
Yeah, Dreamlight now in control there. 73% for Fruit Salad. That's essentially last fight territory on these Flashpoint maps. And okay, beautiful opening kill here from Fuzzy Doe. Bandit really been causing problems on this Tracer.
Yeah, there's not much to be done once the Sigma decides you are entirely in those sites. So Hostile does take that Bionade, has to play around so carefully here, is able to recall, get the healing necessary to stay alive for a few moments longer in this fight. And Super Bloom is getting a couple kills here. So on the side of Dreamlight Academy, they came into this fight at a deficit without Bandit to harass the backline of Fruit Salad, but is able to pull through here with as quick as they're getting back to the objective and honestly putting Fruit Salad in their place a bit.
Yeah, and the grab from Lucky actually forces out the beat from Mafia, and Fruit Salad don't come out on top there. So now Super Bloom essentially going to have a free blade here. You are going to have the Deadeye from Lyran. They might be able to at least zone out this Genji, try to protect these supports. But, I mean, you don't have the beat, you don't have the Flux to work with.
Pulse Bomb tries to land through onto Banana Milk, that most stationary target that they have to worry about. And yeah, with her falling down, Mafia soon as well does put Dreamlight Academy well in control of this point here. That blade is the perfect finisher to this fight. Fuzzy Doe is the last gasp of resistance on the objective of Resort here. And Fruit Salad find themselves beaten back as we are 1-1 on Flashpoint.
Tying things up here on Resort. The Nano going to be available here for Starry Night as we head over to the next sub point. Nano available for the side of Fruit Salad as well. Banana Milk has that one ready to go. Hostile Has the pulse bomb as well. Now we did see the nano from Fruit Salad go over onto Lyran with the Deadeye. Not gonna have the Deadeye here, but just the pure damage output from the Cassidy can be enough to kind of turn these fights here as Bazaar, our third point here in Atlas.
Nano coming through onto Super Bloom, just trying to build up towards this next blade and keep her alive as much as possible. Really devastating Genji all over the objective here and gets so much value for her trouble. Fruit Salad just falling down one by one here on the objective. Not much you can do against so much damage coming through from both the Genji and also Lucky, of course. So much charge here on this Zarya.
Yeah, Lucky doing a good job kind of staying alive through these fights. It can be really easy to kind of, once your bubbles are forced, just kind of get collapsed on, but the support from Starry Night and Dusk, making sure that Lucky is surviving through to the next fight and the next fight. Hostile! Gonna find the better of Bandit here. Another opening for Fruit Salad, but we saw how Dreamlike changed this in the last one.
Yeah, again, this should work in their favor, but that is no guarantee against Dreamlight Academy and the way they are playing at this point here. The rest of the team is playing nice and hunkered down together, and of course, with as fast as Tracer is, Bandit is already back in the fight with a Pulse Bomb in tow. Rock comes through, doesn't land onto anybody, unfortunately. Bandit gets down yet again! Lyran using that excellent new perk there from the Cassidy to finish off that Tracer before they have a chance to let loose with that Pulse Bomb, so safe for a few moments longer with that, but Super Bloom misses a bit of a ledge there. No chance to climb back on as she takes a bit of a dive off the edge of the map there. In Fruit Salad, yeah, they're in control.
Yeah, back in control here. 54% for Dreamlight. Not too bad. Both those DPS ultimates and a beat ready to go for this next one. Starry Night does get sent back to spawn a little bit late there, courtesy of Lyran. So we see Dreamlight just kind of hanging out, waiting for this Ana to get back in. Now, it's ultimates kind of for both sides here. Mafia is going to be able to build up to this beat. Needs to do it quickly if you want to have a response for this blade coming in from Super Bloom, because Super Bloom's going to have that beat in tow if needed. So it's going to be hard for Hostile or for Fruit Salad to kind of see through this next fight if you don't at least have the beat to work with.
Really solid anti-nade out from Banana Milk to start off that fight, but unfortunately there's no follow-through coming through on the side of Fruit Salad here, as Dreamlight Academy are able to slice and dice their way, or with that, I guess it's kind of bludgeoning damage, the Nerf sword, it doesn't matter. All that being said, Super Bloom is able to clean up the rest of the team members of Fruit Salad there, who got themselves to 99, but Dreamlight Academy, they're not done just yet.
Yeah, that's, you know, kind of expensive here for Dreamlight. You are back in control and looking at last fight territory for both of these teams. It's the Beat and the Nano that are going to be available to Dreamlight Academy for this next one. The Beat and the Nano for Fruit Salad, and this Pulse Bomb from Hostile still ready to go. Big anti-nade, but they are going to be able to survive through it for this next engagement.
Yeah, as you said, both Nanos ready to go in this next one here. All support ults, in fact, ready and loaded for this final fight on this objective here. As Hostile does get that Pulse Bomb landing on the Starry Night. No chance to use that Nano Boost coming through from that Ana. And the Beat on the side of Dreamlight Academy only hit 2 members of the team. Super Bloom and Bandit were just off doing their own thing. So really not as much value as you'd like gotten from the ults themselves. However, Fruit Salad's members have been falling one by one throughout that fight. Despite going down a bit early on the side of Dreamlight Academy, they're able to rally around, and you know, despite separating a bit to the winds, they did get themselves a solid level of control in this fight here, in this final engagement on the objective. They are finally beating back all aggressors to the point, and that will do it. Oh, what a final fight that point was. 99-99, got all the way. Dreamlight Academy did take that one down, so they are at map point.
Map point. Dreamlight Academy really want to win this next one and keep themselves alive in this series. And what a great job from the team over on Bazaar, because you lose Starry Night first. You don't have the Nano to kind of sustain through that fight, but everybody on the same page, focusing down the same targets, able to force out all the ultimates from Fruit Salad as well. So now, well, it's a free Nano to go in for this next engagement.
Yeah, Fuzzydo now here on the Winston. Hostile falling so low, though, has to play a lot more carefully. Unfortunately, not able to get out, as Super Bloom is able to clean up both the Ana and the Genji. Super quick fashion on the side of Dreamlight Academy. Really well played, as Dusk is able to find, honestly, the health pack. I did not know that was there, so thanks for showing me something new there, Dusk. Appreciate that. Dreamlight Academy have plenty of ults coming into this next fight here in Fruit Salad. As you said, Rain, looking pretty dry in the cabinet.
Yeah, the cycling just kind of fell apart on Bazaar, but if you're Fruit Salad and you're ult trekking right now, you want to just take a really quick engagement here, try and force out this blade from Super Bloom, because Super Bloom, I mean, she's been absolutely deadly on this Genji, and there's a grab as well. So honestly, if you're Fruit Salad, you just want to get at least an ult out of this fight.
no chance to build up to anything, unfortunately, as Bandit and Super Bloom just combined to be the most devastating and lethal front line we've seen from them all series long here. They look pretty much uncontested here on the objective, and again, they still have all 4 of these ults they came into that last fight with. They had to spend nothing to win out this one here. The engagement's still ongoing here as Fruit Salad are finally able to trickle back towards the objective, but they're gonna have to play it so much more carefully than Dreamlight Academy here, as this is their last chance to really get their toes on the objective, or else this map is going to be done and we're going to map 5. Bloom does get the better of Lyran falling down, as Lyran is not able to get a benefit from that pulse bomb. No chance to use that Tracer ultimate as this fight is trickling on and on here. The point does get flipped on the side of Fruit Salad, but it looks as though Dreamlight Academy are just too well entrenched here around the objective. Lucky is trying to do her very best to take down Fuzzy Doe, does finally get the better of the opposing tank. So well done there before they get up to that Primal Rage. So nothing to worry about yet on the side of Dreamlight Academy, or rather on the side of Fruit Salad. Yeah, so no more Winston to be had in the fight. Dreamlight Academy is still looking themselves to lock down the objective here, as Lucky has taken a bit of a nap, but with those bubbles ready to go, no much concern to be had here on the objective. Dreamlight Academy are closing out the fight in solid style here, as the final Primal Rage does come through from Fuzzy Doe. She's able to get more than a few Primate toes on the objective, but that is kind of it at that point. And finally, despite the confusion, despite the mayhem, Dreamlight Academy will close out Atlas and will take us to a map 5.
Map 5, let's go. Yeah, Dreamlight looking really good here on Atlas. A little bit of kind of back and forth, but I think that once they kind of found their stride, and honestly, once they kind of displaced this ult economy that Fruit Salad had, that was it. The garden map that we went to, or the town map, well, yeah, still working on the Atlas sub maps, but that last one kind of just sealed the deal once, you know, Fruit Salad, no ultimates in the bank, and then Dreamlight Academy still doing a really good job rotating their own ultimates and getting in control of that point meant that Fruit Salad are forced to kind of just push into Dreamlight over and over again, and you're just hitting a wall at that point. So Dreamlight, you know, showing that they still are signs of life here in this.
Yeah, honestly, really encouraging to see that Dreamlight Academy are still feeling themselves and still finding ways to iterate this late into the series when, you know, what seemed to be their brightest map was the very first one of the series. They have not allowed themselves to be beaten down by, you know, those 2 consecutive solid map wins coming through for Fruit Salad here. So really excellent choice. It turns out that Chaos really was to their favor. They were able to play with these, you know, these newer objectives here on this brand new map from last season, of course, of Atlas, and able to sort of rotate around and play these corridors. Now, yes, certainly we did sometimes lose Bandit, for example, early on in these fights, but that's just because they're putting so much pressure on the backlines that whenever Fruit Salad had to turn around to deal with Bandit, the rest of Dreamlight Academy was away doing their own business, or diving directly onto your front line, closing out this fight before you could really do much about it. So the sacrifice was never quite in vain for Bandit. So well played from Dreamlight, an excellent choice of map. But now Fruit Salad have the chance to take us to their map of choice here for the final one of the series.
Yeah, and Fruit Salad did win the last map pick that they had of Circuit Royale. So we do only have one map type left. We are going to be heading to a push map for our 5th and final map. It's just a matter of which one is it going to be. And Fruit Salad firmly in control now, which is going to be, you know, a little bit stressful here for Dreamlight, because on this 5th and final map, that is kind of an option that you would want to have, is to be kind of in the driver's seat there, because this also means that Fruit Salad are going to get the first hero ban. And so far, I mean, you mentioned it last time we looked at these hero bans, right? Fruit Salad has been on point with these.
Yeah, and honestly would be very surprised to see that start flagging now here when it becomes most important at the end of the series. Now, of course, you have banned out 4 heroes already for each team, so you might be running kind of out of options of the best ways to take off your opponent's, you know, potential best compositions here. So that is certainly a possibility coming into this late in the series, but I think there's still plenty of room for both these teams to sort of you know, throw curveballs at their opponents here. If you want to prevent these dive compositions that, again, Dreamlight seems so stuck on running, you certainly could do that. But we did see at the very end, Fruit Salad run some of their own here on Atlas. Whether or not those were well favored at the end of the day remains to be seen. But at this point, it becomes kind of difficult to really choose a hero ban that does not involve hamstringing yourself in some way.
That's so true. Now we have the map all selected. Fruit Salad are taking us
Over to Esperanza. So you just mentioned that we did get to see a little bit of dive out of Fruit Salad over on Atlas, and I'm anticipating that we could potentially see that here on Esperanza as well. Those two bridges kind of around the main point, a really great way to just get set up on that high ground, control and deny any value from your attacking team. But that being said, you definitely could kind of throw a curveball, move over onto a brawl composition, which is just not necessarily going to be as expected.
Yeah, we have the bans coming through, and so, all right, turns out you can still make impactful bans late in the game here. No Zarya for Dreamlight Academy, or indeed for either of these teams, but Fruit Salad is the one who banned it out, so. And Dreamlight Academy have decided that the Baptiste is not going to be an option here, so they find themselves once again with both of the support heroes they've wanted to run all series long back in their hands to play with. But Fruit Salad ban out the Zarya is also a really solid pick, with as good as Lucky was on the last map there. Just able to build up so much charge, able to get those cleanses when they were lacking the Kiriko to do so. Really valuable utility to be had from that Zarya. So now Kiriko is also back into it, so there is a way to deal with Anas on either side here. But yeah, such a favored tank by Lucky, clearly. Good to get it out of her hands.
Yeah, I also think that this is going to be very helpful for Fruit Salad if you want to put Fuzzy Dough back over on her favorite hero. The Orisa going to be an option here, like I said. Not necessarily typically seeing these brawl compositions on Esperanza, but it definitely can be done. And I think banning out the Zarya, not only is that going to take away kind of one of those counter swaps for the Orisa, but it is also shutting down Lucky on that Zarya, who looks so strong. So you're kind of like hitting two birds with one stone here. Now, the Baptiste ban coming out does mean that it's going to be a little bit harder for Fruit Salad to potentially run this Orisa composition, because you're usually running that kind of Bap Lucio backline, and it allows Dreamlight Academy to maybe move over onto their favorite supports. But right now, they aren't teasing that Wuyang, looking like Dreamlight Academy maybe want to run out on this on a Lucio.
Would certainly be an interesting pick, considering the supports that are back, in play. But on the side of Fruit Salad, I would love to continue seeing this, getting to watch them run this composition on Blizzard World to sort of get that massive hovering shield of Sigma into play as quickly as possible. Really valuable for the clear Sigma build that they are working with here on the side of Fruit Salad. But Dreamlight Academy, Lucky is back on the Diva pick, so clearly a favorite as well. Maintaining such dive high ground potential like you were highlighting here, Rain, as these Bronzer really tends to favor that so much more than even the other push mode maps that we have in the game at this point. Still eating a bunch of damage though, has to play a bit more carefully here on the high ground. The only real burst healing you have to benefit your side is going to be those grenades, and you really want to spend those more on offense than on defense if you can help it there. But Lucky is able to clean up Lyran from that high ground position. Such a danger can that Cassidy be if allowed to sort of keep running unattended like that. And in fact, Lyran is going to swap over to the brand new, well, not quite brand new at this point, Freya coming through.
Yeah, exactly. The brand new DPS at least. Now, Freya definitely has a lot of damage potential, but the Diva of Lucky is going to be able to deny pretty much all of the cooldowns that Lyran has at their disposal here, and Fruit Salad just being shoved into a corner by Dreamlight as they move this bot forward.
When Dreamlight just start rolling entirely over your front line, just saying, no, show me that back line, I want to immediately destroy it, please. That is when you have to start being afraid. You just got to start playing a bit more carefully here, just allowing them to roll all the way forward here. As you even saw Dusk get the confirmed kill there, despite all the damage coming through from the front line. It was that Lucio just cleaning up things at the end there. So Dreamlight are playing at the exact tempo they want to be running here. And Fruit Salad, so far, they've not been able to keep up.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because you're playing this, although we were kind of praising the Brawl Sigma, you are still a poke and you need a little bit more time to kind of get set up, do some of this damage before you go in for an engagement. Now, Hostile does have the Pulse Bomb ready to go, but the Nano onto Lucky, you don't have to reload, it's just all damage.
Yeah, Starry Night lets loose with that ultimate there, and Banana Milk follows in close fashion as well, as Mafia is the beneficiary of that. Not sure whether Lucio was the intended recipient, but either way, certainly got that Boostio rolling for a little while longer. A fine vintage to be sure. Fuzzy Dough is able to push back the members of Dreamlight Academy for just a moment here, as the bot is going to finally enter Fruit Salad's hands. But Dreamlight Academy were able to cap that first point there and are just now rolling over the center point of the map here. So plenty of distance gained already. Really well played from them so far. As Lucky is just trying to get out with mech intact at this point. Bandit falling down at the ends as Hostile is able to find out that mirror tracer. As Fuzzy Dough, is able to push forward here a bit more effectively. And that blade comes out from Super Bloom. She is one of 3 folks left alive on the team. 2.5 if you count that mech being down at this point. Does get the deflect kill on Banana Milk, but that is all she is going to get, as Fruit Salad are able to weather that storm of the Genji Blade here, and they will have 3 ults coming in this next fight.
Yeah, and Fruit Salad get to set up on this high ground. Now, Banana Milk did move her onto the Kiriko off of the Ana, so now you're going to have that Suzu to try and cleanse the anti-needs that have been coming out from Starry Night, because like you mentioned earlier, Rex, like you really kind of want to be engaging with these anti-nades. That is the go button here for Dreamlight Academy, where you're running this dive now. Dreamlight Academy, you have the beat ready to go, but Fruit Salad, just so many ultimates to work with. Ooh, nice eat there from Lucky onto that Pulse Bomb.
No Pulse Bomb benefit whatsoever. Hostile also gets taken down as well. Another eat onto Lyron's Bola Shot. All right, Lucky is here on that D.Va and is just completely obliterating the hopes and dreams of Fruit Salad's front line. No chance at all with those projectile-based ultimates. Honestly, just really unfortunate and really can really damage the morale going forward for Fruit Salad. They've really got to find themselves another gear here, get comfortable, get okay with it. Banana Milk, as you said, here on this Kiriko instead. So trying to have a bit more speed here, but still Fuzzy Dough on the Sigma, kind of slowing things down a bit.
Yeah, you do have this Flux coming online for Fuzzy Dough, so potentially, you swap off of the Sigma after that. Against this Tracer Genji, it's really hard because Sigma isn't really going to be able to peel for these flankers, and when you have the 1-2 combo, a Bandit and Super Bloom, you know that your supports are going to be in danger, and Lyron, who's over on this Sojourn as well. As soon as that slide comes out, you're basically a sitting duck.
Yeah, Super Bloom finds out Mothia. No problems there whatsoever, as Fuzzy Dough does still have this Flux, of course, so this could easily be the thing to open up or close out this fight. The Dreamlight Academy, they have, moved backwards just a little bit here, but really have not disengaged fully from this fight. Starry Night in the high ground is able to clean up Lyron before anyone can get any great distance here on the side of Fruit Salad. Fuzzy Dough still holding on to this Flux. I'm kind of a bit worried at this point, Rain, that she's been holding on to this Sigma ult for a little bit too long here, and really could have benefited from swapping maybe a bit earlier in this map.
Yeah, I agree. You're trying to find something, but unfortunately it's gonna go a little bit wide as you try to catch Super Bloom in this kitchen.
Yeah, and so with that, Lyron does get the better of Bandit, but Fuzzy Dough falling down after using this Flux is going to mean sent back to spawn, and hopefully a different hero pick coming through, but maybe not, considering we're in the very last potential stages of this map here. And this is kind of not a terrible place to play Sigma. It is functionally just a defense, position, but really that is not at all where you want to find yourself coming in to potentially the final stages of the map here. There's still 4.5 minutes to go, so even if they take the bot back into their control, Fruit Salad has so much distance left to cover to even equal the gain from Dreamlight Academy here, and they will finally let loose with the Kitsune Rush, but unfortunately Hostile and Fuzzy Dough are already down here. There's barely anyone left alive to benefit from this Kiri ult, and Dreamlight Academy have 4 ready to go. Make that 4 whole ultimates ready to go in the final stages of this fight.
Yeah, and one of those is the Nano Blade. I mean, Super Bloom, she's just been so dangerous just with a blade on its own, so now you have potentially a Nano to combo onto it. There's no beat from the side of Fruit Salad. You have both DPS ultimates to work with, so maybe Lyron can clutch it up here and find a really big pick with this overclock, but you're not gonna have your tank to make space for you.
No, Lucky gets the better of Fuzzy Dough there. A nice boop kill. Another one being handed out by Bandit as well. Super Bloom does have this blade sort of finally getting back into the action here, and just a few cursory swings just to show us all just how proud we are of that sword. So well done indeed at the very end. But the rest of the team is cleaning up where it counts most. Fuzzy Dough is finally swapped onto something besides Sigma. It is the Junker Queen here on the defensive side of this push. Wouldn't really classify this as a defense traditionally, but with the way that Dreamlight Academy has been playing, what can you do but defend against this incredibly fast aggression here coming through? As Dusk is letting loose with that sound barrier as well. The rest of Dreamlight Academy looking pretty solid here on the point. Lucky drops that D.Va bomb, trying to get back into mech here, and does get the kill on the Fuzzy Dough. That is just the absolute absolute linchpin of this composition, falling down one by one. Another anti-nade laying loose as Starry Knight gets so much value from this Ana pick here, and just like that, despite the highs, despite the incredible progress being made on earlier maps in the series, Fruit Salad falls down before the might of Dreamlight Academy here, who pushed forward in the face of going down again. They were down 2-1 early on here. They could have lost in that fourth map of the series, but they brought us to a 5, and they looked phenomenal all the way through this final map here. Really, the bot did not leave their hands for more than a few seconds here, and it's hard to pick a single player because the rest of the team, the entire team, was playing so well together. Their engages were beautiful, their disengages were fantastic, and they knew exactly when to collapse onto that slow-moving comp that unfortunately might have been the downfall of Fruit Salad.
Yeah, I see now why Fruit Salad went ahead and banned out that D.Va on the very first map. Maybe a little bit of a surprise to me, not typically, you know, seeing the D.Va played a whole lot, but Lucky showing us on Esperanza just how dangerous be on that tank, denying so much value from those projectiles, like you said, of Fruit Salad. So really, really great stuff here. Dreamlight Academy picking up this win. The final match for these two teams here Swiss stage. Now, I did take a little look at the standings during the break, and the good news is it does look like both of these teams are going to be heading into the playoffs. They both came in here with a 4-1 scoreline, so you're already kind of securely in that top 8, but Dreamlight Academy going to be feeling good about taking that win and cementing themselves in a high seed coming in.
Yeah, really solid win coming through. Certainly not the lights out performance that they had earlier on throughout the Swiss stage here. They were undefeated for quite a while, but really having to work for it here in the later stages of the Swiss stage. So, and honestly, I love to see that from teams. That is really encouraging to know that they are not just, you know, either really good at one composition or really good against a certain type of enemy. They really find so much value all the way through here. But folks, that is going to do it for us here at Rising this evening. Thank you all for joining us so much. Don't forget, everybody, playoffs start next week, so be sure to tune in here once again for more and more of the action. But until next time, it has been Rags and Rain, and of course our lovely production crew bringing you the rest of this action. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. Have a lovely week. We'll see you next time.